Let's open up questions for head coach Chris Brown.
A week ago, you were concerned because you didn't feel like in the first two games of your team had played maybe up to what their potential is, and then also just some of the characteristics maybe they showed in the first 2 weeks. Was Saturday a reflection of what you were worried about?
It was. I mean, I think at times we play to our potential and we look really, really good. It's just that consistency of playing well all the time. I don't know if it's loss of focus or not understanding situations or, just learn how to finish people off, just different things like that. And that's something we've been preaching as coaches for the last 3 weeks. And, we got to find a way to try to instill that this week of being perfect in practice, practicing a little bit harder, having a sense of urgency. Trying to be perfect in practice, so on Saturday you're perfect as well. So those are things we're going to work on this week, and just being physical. I did not think we were very physical, in that game at all, especially on defense. Thought there was a chance to get a few big hits, and we didn't get those hits. And thought we'd just play a little bit soft, on the back end in our coverage, and we need to tighten things up just a little bit more so we're not getting, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6 so easily. So. It's just. I just didn't think we improved, and it's a good talk we had yesterday with our players about improving this week and making sure we come to practice with a purpose. We come to meetings with a purpose, and even going to weights with a purpose, and try to be perfect in everything that we do, and just give a little bit more effort, for this team.
2 games in a row, you've gotten off to quick starts, and then it quickly fades. I'm sure it's $1 million question, but any sense of why this continues to happen?
I don't know. I really can't explain it. With our guys, you talk to your players about it, and they say, yeah, they say the right things, but we got to find a way to get it changed. So, we'll change some things up in practice this week. Offense going against defense at different times, and throughout practice, and maybe start with it and end with it, just to make sure we have that, finish and that end as well. Maybe in the middle of practice, so we can continue to, keep having that physicality and playing that speed of the game. So, we'll just try to make things up with practice this week, and hopefully get them a little bit more locked in. And hopefully this was a wake up call, John, just for the players, but for the coaches as well, of things that we need to do to improve to make sure that our kids are ready to play, and they know their assignments and understand the situations at hand.
From what you've seen on the field, is there anything specific that you want to emphasize in practice this week?
I think it's just finishing the play is probably the biggest one, and physicality as well. I feel like sometimes there's, maybe we could get a pick, but we just go for the knockdown instead, or maybe we're in good position to make a play and we don't. We just kind of tag off instead of thudding up in practice, finishing blocks, finishing runs. After the catch, getting vertical and act like you're going to go score. Just all those little things that go into it, and sometimes kids just don't do those things, and we got to make sure this week that they're doing those things in practice, as coaches, and really hound on them, and making sure they're doing the things that we want them to do to be successful on the football field. So, a lot of it goes on us as coaches. We got to make sure that things go the right way, and make sure the kids are doing the same things, and then our leaders need to step up and make sure everybody's, being accountable and taking ownership of this program as well, so we can get this thing turned around.
It's easy to maybe leap to panic because of the way that college football is. You can't lose very much in D2 and expect to have a postseason or contend for an MIAA title. How hard is it to not get to that panic level, even though it's only one loss?
You just can't, right? You start to panic, then you start making more mistakes, and you start getting frustrated, and then bad things happen. So, we just got to play our game and find ways to help, if we improve, through practice in the week, hopefully that panic goes away on Saturday. And I do feel like we panic just a little bit, play a little bit tight, play a little bit timid, on game days, which, with this being an older group, they played enough football that they shouldn't have any of those fears or panic or doubts in their mind that they're a good football team, because they are a good football team. We just got to put everything together. But, we can't panic. It's one game. There's a lot of teams in this conference that beat each other this week that you didn't think was going to happen. So, it's kind of a wide open race right now. So, we just need to keep on winning ball games and learn from this one, but don't let it weigh on us too much that that it hurts us, in the long run.
Might be kind of a loaded question, but how do you feel this team has handled adversity throughout the game this season?
Not real well. I don't think we've had adversity at all. I think at times we do okay, but You know, when somebody hits us in the mouth like Northwest did, you know, after we went up 14-0, and we got to find a way to respond, and I didn't think we responded very well. You know, if we turn the ball over offensively, then our defense needs to go on the field and, you know, get a 3 and out, or at least make them kick a field goal or something like that. And vice versa, if we get a turnover defensively, our offense needs to go down and score. And, you know, those are two things that we haven't done, you know, this season as well. So, you know, those are things we got to focus on and get better at. But, you know, I still believe in these kids, and I have faith in these kids. And, you know, we just need to learn that, you know, adversity is going to hit us, you know, through all facets of life. I mean, every day you're going to have some type of adversity, and it's how you fight through that adversity that kind of defines you as a man. So, you know, we need to figure out that as young men right now, and, you know, as coaches, kind of teaching them that as well, because, you know, we've all been through a lot of things and played under a lot of pressure, either playing or coaching, and things are going to happen. You just got to overcome them and move on. It's, you know, it's one play at a time. Move on to the next play. It doesn't matter how good it was or how bad it was. You always got another play to play.
Last week you said there are no gimmies in the NIAA, and then on Saturday, Emporia State wins at Pittsburgh, and then Central Oklahoma beats Central Missouri. Just your overall thoughts about the MIAA early on?
You never know, right? You never know who's going to win those ball games, and sometimes it's matchups, right? Like sometimes you match up better against a team than somebody else does, and it's just crazy how this conference is, because I mean there's a lot of difference in teams, but also a lot of similarities as well. You know, when you go against certain people, like I think we, you know, are very similar to Washburn. We're very similar to Mo West. We're very similar to Northwest, just with the size and the physicality. And then, you know, Central Missouri and Emporia are spread teams that just are going to go at you in 100 miles an hour. So it's, you know, you just got to be prepared for every situation. But sometimes it's just the matchup and how it works out, and, you know, and how your kids are feeling that day is a big part of it as well. But, you know, I thought everybody would be feeling good on game day, because it's time to put on the pads and go hit somebody. But, you know, sometimes kids just aren't feeling it sometimes. But it's in this conference, you never know. Every game you have to play and you have to show up, and you're going to fight and scrap to win every ball game, and that's just the way it is in this conference. And, you know, along that goes with that is his injuries and things like that as well. But the next guy needs to step in and make plays, you know, when somebody does go down. So you never know in this conference. Be ready. That's all I can tell you, is to be ready for your opponent, because anybody can win any ball game in this conference.
Speaking of injuries, I know it's 1 of 11 on defense, but how big is the loss of John Johnson, and is there a timetable on if he'll return?
Yeah, he'll be back at some point this season. 2-3 weeks is what we're hoping. And it was, you know, it was a loss, you know, and it did hurt. But, you know, like we always say, it doesn't matter. The next time you need to step in and be ready to play and be ready to go. And it gave us a chance to get some young guys on the field, and guys that hadn't played before who need those reps. And we did play a lot of different guys, you know, this last week, you know, especially defensively. I mean, there's a tons of guys that played that hadn't played before and did pretty well. And the more game reps they get, the better off they're going to be. So hopefully those guys that stepped in this week and played will be better next week. And, you know, now it kind of pushes some more competition, you know, across the board on who's going to start this next week.
Is there some spots, both sides of the ball, that could be up for grabs this week after a loss? Or is that back to kind of my previous question about not pushing the panic button?
I think it's every week. You know, I mean, I always tell our twos that they need to be pushing to fight for that number 1 spot. And if you're not making this team better. So, I mean, for me, especially at my position, I think those guys need to compete, you know, every single day to see who's going to be the starter. And, you know, we kind of know who it is, but I still like to see those young guys, you know, step up a little bit and push these guys a little bit harder. And, you know, some of them are starting to do that. And, you know, now they'll be ready to step in the game when it's time to play as well. So, you know, you saw Chavez play a bunch this week. You hadn't played hardly at all, you know, previous weeks. I just, you know, sometimes as a coach you hesitate because you haven't seen the guy play for real in person, and you don't know how he's going to react. But I thought he did pretty well for us, you know, stepping in this game and playing quite a bit for us. Made a few mistakes, but what kid did make a few mistakes on Saturday. But to me, let's just compete every single day and try to be the guy. You know, I mean, in that quarterback position, it's one of those spots too. Like, hey, maybe either you're ready to take this thing over or what. But you know, Jack's pretty darn good. Jack's done some good things for us. And then, you know, running back, you know, losing Dixon. Now we got, you know, 2 other guys trying to compete for spots as well. So, you know, you got to have that competition. And you know, I don't ever want to solidify a starting lineup until Ryan comes and talks to me on Saturday right before the game, and usually I don't even let him know.
How do you feel this team has handled in-game adjustments? Because I know with obviously new coordinator on offense and just, there's a veteran squad, there's a lot of changes in some of the coaching and just positions. How has this team handled making those in-game things?
I think our coach has done a really good job, especially at halftime, and especially having the iPads on the sideline of showing guys what's happening to them and getting in front of them. A lot of times it's just, we make a stupid mistake. Last week I thought penalties really hurt us, especially on offense. I thought they truly, truly hurt us. And then defensively, it was just a couple, giving up the big play right before the half that never should have happened. You keep everything in front. That penalty as well against Miles of roughing the passer, I thought was, in my eyes, wasn't, but to them it was. And then, even the play before that where the kid's not out of bounds, but they get him, they stop the ball or stop the clock because they say he was out of bounds. So all these different things that are going on. But, we got to get better in those situations, and we got to play harder. We got to be more physical. And we got to get things done.
Offensive line play seemed like played good early, but then the second half is not so good.
Not really much different. It's just maybe a little lazy with their feet, right? And that defensive line of Northwest having like two sets of them come in, and rotating in kind of wears you down a little bit. And they're all big, strong, physical guys. But I thought to start the game, we did a really good job of handling them up front. And I think just as the game got on, we got a little worn out. So, we'll condition a little bit this week to make sure that we get in better shape and do a few little things to make sure that we are in shape and pick up the tempo just a little bit. But, overall, I think they did a decent job. The holes weren't there, but, teams start to figure out things as the game goes on and hunch down a little bit harder, on the run, especially. They really stopped our run game and then forced us to throw. And then penalties, of course, also, kind of took us out of our game as well, with those holding calls and, other penalties that really hurt you and then put you in a hole. It's hard to get out of those holes against a team like Northwest anyway.
Let me talk about Northeastern. Appear to be a much improved team.
They are very much improved, and that's – they have 60, 70 new transfers, right? And there's a few kids that are still there that are playing, but they are a totally different team. They play hard, they play physical. They took Mo West to the wire. I know the UCM game doesn't really show what they are, but UCM is pretty darn good, and they probably weren't used to that tempo of offense, as well, and that physicality that UCM plays with. But they are improved. They got some very skilled receivers. They got some very skilled, defensive backs as well. They had 4 or 5 turnovers against, Mo West especially, and a couple of those, turned into points for them. So, we're going to have to be ready for a very good football team that's, very sound with what they do offensively and defensively, and and they play hard and they play physical. So, they're going to come in here. They're 0-2, just kind of like Northwest was. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for us because they had a bye week this week. So I'm sure we're going to see a lot of different looks from them and a lot of different things, offensively with trick plays and things like that. So we're going to have to be prepared, and, we're going to have to play physical this game and get after them.
5 of the last 6 have been blowouts, and you've scored 57 or more points. Do you have to fight that maybe mentality of Northeastern has not been a tough opponent over the recent years compared to what you're going to face out?
Yeah, we had a real talk, with our team yesterday, and they kind of said the same thing. They watched them on film too and said this is a totally different group than it used to be. And they see the skill guys, and they see the guys up front are a little bit bigger, a little bit more athletic as well, and they see that these kids are playing a lot harder than they used to. So they know this is a very good football team that they're going to prepare for and get ready for. So hopefully they do that. That's my wish and my hope, and I pray that they do and prepare themselves to go into this game knowing it's going to be a battle, and hopefully we come out on top.